Hello everybody, this is Michael, and I'm substituting for Tuya this evening, and we're meditating on the Thursday Ray 2 Jupiter meditation, the Reappearance of the Christ. First, let us perhaps look at some of the paragraphs from that book. I think the book should be read every year, if possible, because really it is the main objective of the esoteric work, especially associated with the Master DK and KH on the second ray, but not only. It is the great planetary objective leading into the Aquarian age. So whatever we do, let it be hoped that we're working in such a way that we're contributing to that reappearance and preceding it, the externalization of the hierarchy. Now the best I can do here at the moment, since I'm not a speaker of Finnish, when Tuya, returns, she'll take up the Finnish translation of these things, but just read slowly in English, where, well, almost any place you begin, it's possible to get a lot out of this. We're on page 56 in a way. I'm just going to read some of the things we read before and then go on a little bit. So the Christ is coming. He comes to correct the mistakes and the misinterpretations of those who have dared to interpret his simple words in terms of their own ignorance, and to recognize those whose faithful service has made his return possible. He too is facing a major test, preparatory to a great initiation, and when he has passed the test and fulfilled his task, he will pass to a still more exalted position in the Father's house, or to some distant place of service where only the most exalted can follow him. We understand that he's working on the seventh initiation, which is a very solar initiation, an initiation of love, wisdom, and that he is destined initially to tread the ray path, probably as a great ray of love. His present position will be taken by the one whom he has prepared and trained, and let me say, I believe that would be Master Kutumi, the Bodhisattva for the age of Capricorn, some 2,000 something years into the future. But before all this can happen, he must again enter the public arena, play his part in world affairs, and prove the scope of his mission. He will gather round him in the flesh his chosen associates and advisors. Okay, these will be high initiates and the masters who work closely with him. These will not be the ones who gathered around in those earlier, simpler days, but those members of the human family who today recognize him and are preparing to work with him as far as in them lies. I think, in a way, those who gathered around the Christ in the early days were essentially becoming initiates of the first degree, and then maybe at the Pentecost entering the second degree, going on. It is a different world to which he is now planning to return, And this is largely due to the intellectual development of the mass of men, pretty much in the age of Virgo Pisces. This presents him with stupendous difficulties, for the intellects of men must now be reached, and not just their hearts, as in the earlier days, if the will of God is to be intelligently carried out on earth. His major task is surely the establishing of right human relations in every department of human living. That's also the great theme of Shambhala at this time. Going on, I would ask you to use your imagination and endeavor to think out what must be the implications of the task which confronts him. I would ask you to ponder on the difficulties which he must inevitably face, the difficulty above all of mass intellectual wrong emphasis. Well, it looks like illusion is a great problem facing him, and not just a glamour alone. So this section now is where we went no further. And today is the 5th of September. Excuse me for fading in and out here. So on a little bit more. He, the representative of the love of God, is asked to work again in the world arena wherein his earlier message has been negated, forgotten, or misinterpreted for 2,000 years, wherein hate and separativeness have distinguished all men everywhere. This will plunge him into a foreign atmosphere and into a situation wherein all his divine resources will be needed and will have to be tried out to the uttermost. So we can see that, a great initiatory task faces the great Lord. He doesn't come as the supremely omniscient, omnipotent conqueror. The generally accepted idea that he will return as a triumphant warrior, omnipotent and irresistible, has surely no basis in fact, and that, will not be agreeable to many of the Orthodox persuasion. That he will ultimately lead his people, humanity, not just, an isolated group, but humanity, into Jerusalem is a fact, founded on a secure foundation, but it will not be into a Jewish city called Jerusalem, but into, quote, the place of peace, close quote, as the word Yerushalayim means, the place of peace, the only place of peace upon our planet, really. Going on, a careful consideration of the world situation today and a dedicated use of the imagination will reveal to the sincere thinker how appalling is the task which he has undertaken. But he has again, quote, set his face to go to Jerusalem. That's the Sagittarian aspect of his mission. All the signs of the zodiac are part of his mission. He will reappear and guide mankind into a civilization and a state of consciousness in which right human relations and worldwide cooperation for the good of all will be the universal keynote. How very different. He will, through the new group of world servers and the men of goodwill, complete his association with the will of God, known as his Father's business, in such a manner that the eternal will to good will be translated by humanity into goodwill and right relations. I guess not everybody's ready for the will to good per se, but it can be translated into good will, which is love in action going on. Then his task will be done. He will be free again to leave us, but this time not to return, but to leave the world of men in the hands of that great spiritual server who will be the new head of the hierarchy, the church invisible. And I'm pretty sure here we're looking at the Master Kuthumi, whose responsibility it is, along with his ashram, to do the most in preparing for the coming of the Christ and the externalization of the hierarchy. I'll read just a little more. The question now arises, in what way can we be of service? How can we aid during this preparatory stage? What the members of the spiritual hierarchy are doing is much indeed. Those disciples who are in conscious touch with the masters of the wisdom, or if you prefer the term, the senior disciples of the Christ, are working day and night in order to establish such confidence, correct attitudes, and an understanding of the divine spiritual push or enterprise that his way will be made easier. And that's really up to each one of us to find the way to cooperate in such a manner going on. They and their groups of lesser disciples, aspirants, and students of the realities stand unitedly behind the Christ and can thus enable him to accomplish his purpose. So any of us has to say, what a responsibility, and take it seriously going on. Their major realization is that of a cyclic crisis in the spiritual life of our planet. It is one which has been anticipated in the Father's house, Shambhala, for thousands of years, many thousands of years. We're told, is it St. Paul, the whole of creation groaneth and travaileth, awaiting the appearance of the sons of God, which is this externalization process going on. They have registered the fact that for the first time in human history, all the three spiritual centers or groups through which God works are unitedly focused on the same objectives. Shambhala, the spiritual hierarchy, and humanity, that is, the Father's house, the kingdom of God, and the world of men, are all striving in one vast movement for an intensification of the light of the world. This light will irradiate in a fashion unknown before not only the Father's house, which is the source of all our planetary light, but also the spiritual center from which have come all those teachers and world saviors who have stood before men and said, as did Hermes, the Buddha, and the Christ, I am the light of the world. This light will now flood the world of men, bringing illumination to men's minds and light into the dark places of human living. So, this is what we'll bear in mind for the moment, and I'll just mark this so that it is possible, perhaps, to go on the next time from the right place. But of course, read the book, it's wonderful, and keep reading the book because it tells us how we can prepare. So I'll just mark beginning here we'll begin on 12 September. Today is the 5th, so it'll be in a week, next Thursday. Okay, so much to ponder and so much to learn about how we can better cooperate in this momentous planetary event, which basically is taking humanity closer and closer, and many in the human family, into the fifth kingdom of nature, the kingdom of souls. And there may be a little difficulty with the stream here. We'll see what we can do about it. Something seems to be streaming, but it's a little, well, it's coming along, but could be better. Every once in a while that happens. And if any of you can hear it, then that's good. And see it also. Okay, so we breathe in the white light. And we see our co-disciples in the light. We focus on our own little triangles network and its relation to the larger triangles network, which is planetary in scope. And we send forth the love and the goodwill to pass between the members of our triangles and all through the network. It is subtle work, but it can change things. And that's what we want. A change for the better. That's what we want. Now, in our meditation, we begin by achieving a positive and intended personality quietness. And under the influence of the soul, we answer in our own words the following questions. As a member of the new group of world service, what is your specific, fixed intention at this moment of dedicated contact with the soul? is my concentrated and expressed personality purpose in line with hierarchical intention as far as I am permitted to know it? Number 3, have I, in my own personal daily life, earned the right, because of definite effort and not so much because of success, to stand with those servers who are now undertaking the work of preparation? So this is the one time in the meditation where we think of ourselves, says Master Decay, and it's here because it is a method of personality-focused attention and does align our personality upon the mental plane. We remember the soul can be found upon the mental plane. So, having answered these 3 questions in the light of the soul, and we say this very important mantra. And here the finish is listed. Forgetting the things which lie behind, I will strive towards my higher spiritual possibilities. I dedicate myself anew to the service of the Coming One, and will do all I can to prepare men's minds and hearts for that event. I have no other life intention. Powerful mantra, really, in a way, separating the sheep from the goats. Then we go on and visualize the world situation as best we can, and in terms of your major world interest and with what knowledge of world affairs you may possess. see the mass of human beings everywhere, glowing with a dim light. And here and there, points of brighter light, where members of the new group of world servers and men of spiritual intention and of loving hearts are working for their fellow human beings. Then visualize through the creative imagination the vivid light of the hierarchy. Streaming, see it streaming towards humanity and slowly merging with the light, which is already in the human race. And then we will say the first stanza of the great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. Then we ponder on the reappearance of the Christ. Realize that no matter by what name he may be called in the many world religions, he is still the same great identity. Reflect and speculate upon the possible result of his appearance. The Christ is anxious publicly to appear to his loved humanity, and this can be frustrating to us. And you wonder how long we must endure, struggle, and fight before his reappearance becomes possible. But it will be so when a measure of peace has been restored, when the principle of sharing is at least in process of controlling economic affairs, and when churches and political groups have begun to clean house. And certainly there is some movement on the third of these. Then he can and will come. And then the kingdom of God will be publicly recognized and will no longer be a thing of dreams and of wishful thinking and orthodox hope. So with these thoughts in mind, we say the second verse here of the great invocation. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. We endeavor to concentrate our fixed intention to serve and to spread love in our surroundings. And we realize that insofar as we can do these things, we are attempting to blend our personal will with the divine will. And with this thought of the will of God, we say together the third verse. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. And we do lay practical plans regarding what we can do in the coming week to further, in some way, the preparations for the coming of the Christ. We must know what our part is, how to cooperate with the angel of the presence who does know the plan. There are so many ways to cooperate depending on our rays and our developed qualities. We have to share them. So make your plans definite and do your best to follow through. So let us respond to the vibration of the Christ. Being with Him as He is with us. Wherever two or three are gathered in His name, His presence will be found, and that's an amazing thing. And so we will say together, mindful of the presence of the Christ throughout this planet, we have gathered in your name, Lord Maitreya. Be with us. Internally we hear the Om, the great sacred word. Julia and I thank you for meditating with us in this Ask program. It is the shortened formula for invocation. Ask, seek, and knock. And tomorrow we'll be working on the evening schedule for the dissipation of glamour. It'll be a webinar, and I think by now you have that, the link. We thank you for your support, for your presence, for your participation in these various activities which help us work esoterically on behalf of the spiritual hierarchy of the planet, and for the welfare of humanity as it begins to enter the fifth kingdom of nature and begins to prepare to take the first initiation in a broad and general sense. The Christ himself will be administering that initiation when he reappears. But the hour is unknown. We have simply to prepare. And that's what we're trying to do together. Under the guidance of the Tibetan, the great messenger, and anticipating together his next dispensation, the third in the series of bridging treatises. And so, many blessings to everyone, lots of love, and we'll see you, if possible for you, tomorrow as we tackle the work of dissipating glamour.